What if you're doing everything right, taking care of yourself, showing up, pushing through, and you still feel exhausted, foggy, or just off? What if the problem isn't your efforts, but something deeper your body is trying to tell you? This is the Delay the Binge Podcast, where we learn how to pause in the moments that matter most so you can choose differently, build momentum, and finish stronger. I'm your host, Pam Dwyer, and today I'm joined by Jessica Van Antoine. Jessica is a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and the founder of Phoenix Functional Health, where she works with high-performing women, especially entrepreneurs, who are doing everything they're supposed to be doing. But they still feel exhausted, overwhelmed, or mentally foggy underneath it all. Her work focuses on helping them restore real energy, mental clarity, and resilience so they can actually perform at the level they're capable of without sacrificing their health in the process. Jessica, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much, Pam. I'm so glad to be here.
Before we dive in, I'd love for you to share a little bit about what your work looks like right now and what you're seeing most with your clients.
So I work one-on-one primarily with female founders and entrepreneurs to really optimize the one system that affects all the other systems in their business, which is their body. And we don't often think about the human body as a system. These female entrepreneurs, they use data with every other part of their business. They optimize every other part of their business, operations and hiring and marketing and sales. But this one system that's touching everything else and that's determining the efficacy of everything else is their own capacity. So as you mentioned in that intro, these women are very high achieving. They have been used to pushing through their entire lives, and that strategy served them well for a long period of time. And I include myself in this group of women as well. High school, college, 20s, early 30s, maybe, just pushing through. And as we get older, in our latter 30s, early 40s, we start to notice like, wow, I'm just not recovering as quickly as I used to, or I'm just, one cup of coffee just isn't doing it anymore. And then two becomes the norm, and then maybe three. And that affects how you sleep. And so you're not sleeping well because you're drinking more caffeine, and then you wake up tired before your day has even begun. And all the stress of all of the pressure of being in business for yourself and growing a company is taking its toll on you. So I like to use the analogy of the body as a bank account, because everyone has a bank account. Everyone can kind of understand that there's a finite amount of money in that bank account, right? Mm-hmm. And every day there are little withdrawals coming out of that bank account. And in terms of the body, it's the things that we choose to put into our bodies, the things that we do with our bodies, the things that we don't do with our bodies. They're either making small deposits or making small withdrawals. And so how that is balancing out over time, that's why we tend to see these kinds of I don't want to say symptoms necessarily, but these kinds of experiences, right, not crop up until kind of latter 30s, early 40s, where, we start our lives as children with this like really robust bank account balance, so to speak. And so the things that we used to be able to get away with, now that our body's account balance has been slowly depleted over time. And so the things that we used to be able to get away with kind of take a larger toll as we get older, because it represents a larger percentage of the remaining balance. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, I relate to it so much. And I'm sure a lot of women, I would think all women can relate to it, because we're just so busy checking off all the boxes, right? And I know personally, I'm the last person on the list. Like, I'm not going to look at myself until everything else is done.
Right.
And so I can relate to that, yes. I saw we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but I saw your recent post about the moment you were literally under your desk. And what stood out to me wasn't just the burnout. It was that shift made, from thinking it was a mindset issue to
Uh-huh.
realizing it was something happening physically in your body.
Uh-huh.
Can
Uh-huh.
you take me back to that moment so that we can give everyone some background on that?
Sure, yeah. So I was the director of business development for a wellness center, and this was in my latter 20s, and I had lots to prove, right? And so I was working about 90 hours a week, trying to open a new location and really, help this business scale. And it just was unsustainable. I had lost track of all of my wellness habits. So I was relying on coffee to make it through the day and then beer to unwind at night.
Yeah.
And a part of my story that I don't like to share, but people appreciate the vulnerability, is that I had started smoking cigarettes just as an excuse to get away from the computer for 5 minutes and go
Mhm.
outside and disconnect. And even though I was inhaling toxic air, I'm very fortunate insofar as I don't have an addictive relationship to nicotine, so it wasn't a huge deal for me to quit that. but
Yes.
but you know, in the absence of the wellness habits, and then in the presence of these habits that were making withdrawals from my body's bank account, the beer, the nicotine, too much caffeine, um, my body had become really depleted, and
Mhm.
I reached such a state of fragility and overwhelm. I didn't recognize myself, and I was like snapping at people on my team, and I got called out on it actually by one woman in particular. Um, and it just kind of made me step back and be like, wow, who have I become? Because I don't recognize this version of myself. I was so
Mhm.
spread thin that, so overwhelmed that I felt like if someone so much as said my name, it felt like glass was cracking inside my body. And then came this day, I was in a meeting and my boss said something, and like the glass shattered that day. I just couldn't hold it together anymore. And that's when I excused myself from the meeting to go into my office and curl up in a ball on the floor underneath my desk and just sob. And of course, being in the health and wellness industry for almost 2 decades now, but at that point, I just thought I needed to meditate more, take a yoga class, get a massage.
Mhm.
And as the universe would have it, and the universe works in mysterious ways, but that day, a gentleman walked into the studio to talk to someone about teaching classes there. I was the person he needed to speak to, and this was after I sort of collected myself and had my breakdown. And it turns out he was a functional medicine practitioner. And I was already, really into natural health and wellness and
Mhm.
heal, using power of the mind and the body and taking care of myself to heal. But in learning about this functional health approach, I immediately signed on. And what that entails is running labs so that you actually get a picture of what's happening internally
Mhm.
and being able to connect the dots essentially between everything that you're experiencing in your life and some physiological function in your body. So I came to realize I signed on immediately and then came to understand that this sense of fragility, this sense of overwhelm, were direct results of physical imbalances in my body. And
Mhm.
so once we had the data, then the solution became easy. It was like, oh, rebalance these minerals. Oh, support cortisol. Oh, rebalance hormones. And then all of my experience totally shifted. My responsibilities stayed relatively the same. I cut back to about 70 hours a week instead of 90, but that's still a lot. Uh,
Yeah.
but, um, but my ability to meet those responsibilities and obligations just shifted because my body was resourced. And so I all of a sudden felt bigger than the stressors in my life rather than feeling sort of crushed and weighed down by all of the responsibilities of my life. And so that's when it really motivated me to approach health from a different way, not
Mhm.
from a reactive standpoint, not waiting until that point, right? So this is, my passion behind the work that I do, particularly with female founders and entrepreneurs, because there's so many burnout coaches out there, but I don't want people to reach the place of burnout. I'm trying to help people avoid that altogether. Not
Mhm.
only, yeah, so not only by incorporating their health as a business strategy, to the benefit of both the individual and the business, right? Um,
Mhm.
so that yeah, so that they never have to reach that place in the first place.
Powerful stuff. And it runs so close to what we're researching and trying to learn here on Delay the Binge. It's all about the pause, right? Before you act on
Mm-hmm.
the urge or the unhealthy behavior or habit.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just
Mm-hmm.
take a moment, and then that is where you and I are similar in our thoughts,
Yes.
because that's when you can think about what's really going on. What's really
Right.
happening? Why am I smoking these
And
cigarettes? Why am I,
right.
drinking all this wine when I get home at night?
Right.
Because we're intelligent women.
Mm-hmm.
We know we've done
Yes.
all the research. We know
Yeah.
that it's not
Yeah.
serving us, but we still
Mm-hmm.
do it.
It's true. It's true. And I really appreciate you saying that in particular. And I'm going to share with you a part of my story that I don't think I've shared publicly ever.
No.
But in my 20s, I had a really bad addiction to cannabis. And, and I came to find out through the process of like when I turned 30, I was like, I don't want to be this person anymore. I don't want to have this behavior anymore. I mean, it was bad. It was like,
Mhm.
it was the first thing I did when I woke up. It was the last thing that I did before I went to sleep. And I was high all day long. And when I wanted to change that behavior, that's when I realized that I couldn't. And then I went through this process, process of like, well, why can't I change the behavior? Oh, well, the behavior is compensating for something. The behavior
Mhm.
is serving a purpose. Okay, so what is that purpose? I had to go through, self-inquiry. What purpose is it serving? For me, it was protection. It was a protective mechanism. It was about getting my social needs met, but not
Mhm.
being fully emotionally present. So having this sort of like haze in between, like a literal, smoke screen in between me and the people that I was around because of childhood wounds and betrayal and, not wanting to be vulnerable, essentially, because I felt like that I was going to end up hurt, right? That was
Mhm.
the programming, my subconscious programming from my childhood. And so it was in this process of self-inquiry. Okay, so what purpose is it serving? Is this purpose necessary anymore? How else can I get that need met,
Mm.
essentially? How else, And so, for example, I've worked with clients on sugar and their sugar addiction, and like, oh, well, I just want to give myself a treat. Okay, well, let's talk about that for a minute, because
Mhm.
this treat is actually doing damage to your body. And I'm thinking of this one particular person who was pre-diabetic, and she did not want to become a full-fledged diabetic. She knew that sugar was bad for her, but she still had this relationship with sugar that it was a treat. And I was like, okay, well, how about we reframe sugar from being a treat to really understanding what it's doing physiologically to your body, and what other behavior could you substitute that would actually be beneficial to your body? What are you trying to accomplish on the other side of this treat, right? Is it a dopamine hit? Okay. How else can we get that dopamine hit in a healthier way? Go get a foot massage or have a smoothie that, has some fiber in it and isn't straight sugar, um, so, so yeah, really looking at the habit, the purpose that it's serving, and then and so that's where it ties into what you're doing in terms of taking that moment
Mhm.
before engaging in a behavior, and really utilizing that to, okay, what's the end goal here? And how else could I accomplish that goal in a way that actually serves me?
I just love it. I love all of that you're saying because it just gives validation to what we've been trying to, work on as my audience and I are just trying to figure it all out, because a lot of people, Jessica, are talking about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's a little difficult for people just to grasp, okay, you're saying that I need to pause. Well, what's that going to do? The cake is still there, or the sugar or
Right.
whatever it is they're doing is still in front of me.
Well, it's
And
like the
so,
whole thing in AA, right? Like awareness is the first step.
yes.
And so even if you go ahead and eat the cake, even if you go ahead and eat the sugar,
Mhm.
or whatever, again, that behavior may be for you, at least you had that moment of awareness. And next time you'll opt not to have the cake.
Mhm.
Maybe it'll be the fifth time or whatever. But developing that awareness is certainly the first step.
I find the stall tactic works for me. It doesn't work for everyone, but like if I'm going
Mhm.
to eat the cake, I know it doesn't serve me, but I don't care at the moment.
Right, right.
I'm just going to eat it.
Yep.
But then if I tell myself like I'm a child, if I pause for a moment and I say, you cannot have this right now, but if you
Mm,
still want it, you can eat it tomorrow. That's
there
what
you
I tell
go.
myself. And
Ah, nice.
it works for me, and other people have said it works for them too, because when tomorrow comes, you don't really want it anymore. You're not in that emotional state
Mhm.
that you're, like, wanting to
Yeah,
feed your frenzy.
yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that if they continue in this pattern, this unhealthy pattern, they're just gonna go numb inside. They're not gonna feel
Mhm.
anything. They're not gonna
Yeah.
feel joy or
Mhm.
sadness. They
I
just
know.
are like robots going through the motions because it has to be done. We don't feel anything. We're numb.
Yeah, you're eating away the whatever it is that you might be feeling, right? It just becomes your go-to. And so you end up feeling the physicality of what you put into your body rather than the emotionality of what you were trying to avoid. Um, which I
Yeah.
really appreciate. I have a almost 2-decade background in health and wellness, and my introduction into this world, or my first career path in this industry, was massage therapy, and that sort of opened the door to all sorts of other healing arts, cranial sacral, meditation, qigong, which is like tai chi,
Yes.
and really getting in touch with the emotions. But one of the things that I've learned is that the emotions won't go away unless you feel them, unless you allow space to actually feel them. And as difficult as it may be, I think that, so often in our modern society, we have this aversion to things that are perceived to be negative, quote unquote. And I put these emotions, or I put, negative in air quotes, because emotions aren't either positive or negative. They do have the quality of, like, feeling good or not feeling good, but emotions are the intelligence of your body speaking to you. And so if we can remove the judgment of the emotion, from being either positive or negative, and really step into a place of awareness, right? Even with the emotions, of like, and inquiry. What is this emotion trying to communicate to me? Have my boundaries been crossed? Am I upset about something? What is it that needs to change here in order for this emotion to shift? And that, moving through it, is how you actually get to the other side of it. But if you avoid it, it's just going to be stuffed down into your body. And there's a book called "The Body Keeps the Score," and
I'm gonna write that down.
yeah, it's an excellent book, but it's all about how emotions are held in different places in the body. And again, if you don't process them, if you don't move through them, then they'll show up again later. And you might also find yourself in circumstances that seem to be like, oh, this was just like that time back then, and oh, this was
Mhm.
just like that, and the cycle keeps happening in your life. And I think it's from an existential perspective, because you haven't actually learned the lesson that you were supposed to learn. And so it keeps getting presented to you, right? Have you?
Right. Until you learn
Yeah.
it,
Until you
it's
learn it. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
It does, and I'm a big advocate for journal.
Mm,
And a lot of
beautiful.
women just roll their eyes because they think, I don't have time to go to the bathroom, Pam. How
Yeah.
am I gonna have time to journal?" And I'm like, "Well, if you don't make time, sometimes you don't realize you have patterns."
Hmm.
And the only way because I don't remember what I felt 2 weeks ago.
Right. Right.
So you
Exactly.
can reference it and then figure, "Oh, there's a pattern here,"
Hmm.
you know? And so I love journaling and I love meditation. I do both of those every single day.
Yeah. Beautiful. And it takes a while to develop those habits. It's just like
Mhm.
building any muscle. You're not
Yeah.
just going to jump into journaling and all of a sudden be a journaler, daily. But if you can, like you said, I appreciate that you said make the time, but
Yes.
not have time, right? Because if you just wait
Mhm.
until you have time, that's never going to come. You have
Right.
to prioritize these things, that are ultimately going to serve you, and really be the curator of your own life, you know?
Exactly, and I always challenge people to, if they wait for motivation, right, to move their bodies or to do
Uh-huh.
something different to something that does serve them, you can't wait for the motivation. You have to act first. Then the motivation happens. A lot of people
Right.
don't realize motivation comes after the action.
Yeah. Well, and I really appreciate, I think it's who's the guy that wrote Atomic Habits? James Clear, I think.
Yes, 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 yes.
Who, yeah. So, if for example, if exercising or moving your body is a challenge for you, then start by just putting on your workout clothes. You don't even have to exercise, just put on the clothes. Chances are you'll do something, right? And so then once you get into the habit of putting on the clothes, then start with 1 minute. Well, I'm just going to do some squats for 1 minute. Chances are you'll do more than 1 minute. And then it just starts to build that muscle memory and that habit. And then you start to experience the benefits of moving your body. And then you start to crave those benefits. So you know that exercising isn't necessarily a comfortable process. Like your muscles are going to burn, you're going to breathe hard, you're going to sweat. But that temporary pain, so to speak, is worth the long-term gain that you're seeing in the way that your body is changing and the way that you feel, because all those endorphins are being released from moving your body, and you're getting your blood pumping and getting your breath rate up a little bit. So you start to prioritize the long-term gains over that short-term discomfort.
Right. And I am one of those. I hate exercise, but I still walk I walk 3 miles in the morning. But if I
Beautiful.
don't walk before, say, a podcast interview, my brain is not as sharp. I'm foggy, like you were talking about. But if I walk before, oh my gosh, I'm very,
Yes,
very clear-headed. That makes a
exactly.
difference for me.
I think it's also a matter of like finding where it fits in your schedule.
Hmm.
So for me, if I don't exercise first thing in the morning, it doesn't happen. I just get into the flow of my day, and I
Yeah.
prioritize everything else. So I know that I have to exercise, before I have breakfast. Not like get out of bed and start exercising. I prefer a slow ramp up, but but I know that it has to go in the morning for me. Otherwise, at the end of the day, I'm too tired. I don't want to do that.
Right. We're going to psych ourselves out of it,
Yeah,
convince
yeah,
ourselves that we're too tired. That's the lower brain talking to us.
that's right, exactly.
So if there are, maybe we can help our listeners understand what maybe the signs of your body are
Mm,
before, like what happened to you, going under the table and just having a breakdown.
mhm.
Are there any signs they can try to take note of?
Oh, absolutely. So many, so many signs. They're different for every person. For me, it was that sense of fragility. It was that irritability and snapping at people, that when this person on my team kind of called me out on it, it kind of shook me, and I was like, oh, this is not me. So any sort of behaviors that make you have that sort of realization, like this isn't like me, or that's certainly a sign. Um, Physically, the signs are so many and so varied. Headaches, you know, over reliance on caffeine to get going in the day,
Mhm.
afternoon crashes, any sort of cognitive decline, so brain fog, or just feeling like you can't focus. Um, Skin issues, eczema. I have some clients that have like stress-induced eczema, anemia, really any physical symptom that you would go to the doctor and they might say, oh, we're just going to give you this, medication or this cream or whatever. Um, but really, all of these little things are signs from your body that some system is not functioning at 100%. We have sort of normalized them, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, headaches are common. People get headaches all the time. But common and normal are two different things. Okay, so just because it happens to a lot of people, that's the definition of common, doesn't mean that it's normal. When your
Right.
body is functioning at 100%, you don't get headaches. You have all the energy that you need to make it through the day. You sleep well, you wake up refreshed. So if you're finding that, um, you're waking up and you're already tired, or you're not sleeping well, your sleep is interrupted, or you have incredibly painful periods, or for people who are, going through perimenopause, menopause, like, super intense hot flashes, or weight that just won't go away, or really anything all of these little things that we might complain about or just put up with or equate to, this is just part of getting older, or it's just part of the job, right? Those are all the signs that there might be some physical imbalance going on in your body. Now, Western medicine would traditionally tell you like, oh, headaches happen all the time. Just, take this migraine medicine or whatever. But that's not actually getting at the root of the issue. Why are these headaches happening? Why are the migraines coming? Why are these hot flashes so intense? When you run functional lab testing, then you get to kind of like look underneath the hood of your body and understand, oh, I'm estrogen dominant. And so if we rebalance, progesterone and estrogen, the hot flashes will subside. Oh, I'm low on testosterone. Maybe that's why my motivation on a daily basis is so tanked. Let's support your testosterone levels. Let's regulate your blood sugar so you're not on this energy roller coaster all day with like super high highs and really low crashes. Let's get everything functioning more smoothly. Let's get you sleeping better. There's mineral imbalances play a role in your adrenal function, your thyroid function, your energy throughout the day. I mean, there's so much to be learned by running some functional lab tests, where Western medicine might brush you off and just say, oh, your labs look normal. Because, and here's the nuance, right? Like Western medicine is looking at their range of normal is an average of everyone that's taken that test over time, like in the history of the test. And so you get that normal kind of bell curve, right? But you only get flagged as abnormal if you're a really far outlier in one direction or the other. And if you think about the average American anyway, not very healthy, sadly. So that range of what is normal includes all the people who aren't very healthy. Whereas functional health takes a much narrower subset of what we consider to be normal. We look at actual healthy people and how those, whatever test it may be, whatever marker we're looking at, it's how does this show up in a healthy person? And so we're also not looking for disease, right? We're not looking to diagnose someone by checking certain boxes. All that we are doing is looking for a deviation from optimal. And so it's so much easier to see when you have a target like that, a narrower target. If you're slightly off in one direction or the other, it gives us the data to connect everything that you're experiencing with something that's going on in your body. And when you have that data, then the solution becomes clear. Yeah. So just like my addiction story that I shared with you, the addiction wasn't the problem. It was the symptom of the problem of deeper needs that weren't being met, right? And so it's the same thing with the quote unquote symptoms or the experiences that we're having on a daily basis of low energy, brain fog, fatigue, headaches, whatever it may be. Those aren't the problem. Those are the symptom of the problem. And these functional lab tests give us the data to actually tell us where the problem is, whether it's coming from mineral deficiencies or hormonal imbalances or a pathogen in your gut or something that you're eating that's not agreeing with your body. And then once you know where it's coming from, what that imbalance is, then it's super easy to fix the imbalance. And then the symptom goes away on its own. So you don't have to battle for years and years and introduce this wellness hack and that wellness hack and this other thing that's like barely keeping Humpty Dumpty together, But
or
it's not
tools,
right.
Tools that we rely on instead of addressing the foundation of the problem.
That's right.
It's my pet peeve.
Yeah.
I mean, I had bariatric surgery because what you're describing is powerful because you're describing my whole journey with my health. I mean, I was over 300 pounds, but the doctors were telling me, your labs are perfect. We don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
And I thought, what? Well, then why is this happening? There were all kinds of things going on, but it's just that they didn't take the time to do what you're saying, which is, okay, she's in the correct zone on these labs, but she's really close to this over here. Let's look at that.
Right.
But that I went to so many different doctors, just trying to find one that could help me understand. But even with the bariatric surgery, that's the foundation of Delay the Binge, is because they teach you about nutrition before
Mhm.
you have it, and
Okay.
they teach you about a lot of things, mindset, preparing for
The
the
emotional.
transition of the
Yeah.
lifestyle and all of that, making sure that you will still be healthy and you can do it mentally as well as
Mhm.
physically. But they never once taught me about maintenance, how important it is that you learn how to maintain whatever weight you're at,
Exactly.
and then
Yeah.
you can tweak from there.
Mhm. And that's where, like, the lifestyle stuff comes in, right? So
Mhm,
the taking walks, for example, first thing in the morning, or having protein within the first hour of waking, or just eating healthy, moving your body. Those are the foundations that help you maintain, but they're
mhm,
not actually going to correct the imbalances that are happening internally. And I wanted to touch on what you mentioned about you went to so many doctors trying to understand and trying to get a picture of what was really going on.
mhm,
And that's such a common experience, right?
mhm,
Um, but one of the issues with Western medicine, from my perspective, is that they look at things in silos. So you get sent to the kidney doctor, you get sent to the heart doctor, you get
yes,
sent to the pulmonologist, and it doesn't take into consideration that this system of your body works in harmony. All of these systems work together to maintain whatever homeostasis that you're at, whether it's an unhealthy homeostasis or a healthy homeostasis. Um, and so what we find in functional medicine is that the problem can crop up in, say, the renal system in your kidneys,
mhm,
but it's not necessarily being caused by a malfunction in the kidneys. It can be being caused by something going on in the gut, or a mineral deficiency, as I've mentioned, or something going on with your hormones.
mhm,
So just kind of isolating one system and looking for, so the problem is there, and you're looking for or the symptom is there and you're looking for the root cause there, that's not necessarily where you're going to find it, because
right,
all of these systems interact with one another to create the beautiful symphony that is you. And
mhm,
so that's why, in my practice anyway, and not all functional health practitioners work this way. Some of them do kind of work in the same way that Western medicine does, in terms of, oh, well, here's your symptom. Like, let's test that system. I work from a perspective of, we're going to test all the systems. We're going to run a comprehensive suite of labs such that we get insight into your hormone balance, your immune system, your digestion, your detoxification function, your energy production, your nervous system, and oxidative stress. And so that w- we're not playing whack-a-mole, kind of chasing around symptoms. You know what I mean? So we
yeah,
address everything at once, and that rising. So again, not from a place of diagnosing, or but simply from a place of noticing where things aren't functioning at 100%. And as we address everything all at once, that rising tide lifts all boats, right? So
yeah,
everything starts to clear up, and we don't again have to go like chasing, well, this intervention didn't work, and so we're going to try this intervention, or now I'm going to send you to this specialist or that specialist. It's like, that's not it's not
yes.
it's not working, you know.
Oh my gosh, where were you when I was in my 20s?
I'm
I
not sure.
mean, I would not have done a lot, like I do, wish that I had not done that surgery, because, I wish I would have met someone like you that would have treated my body as a whole, as a
Mhm.
machine,
Mhm.
that kind of like a car, right? Just
Yeah.
because you're low on oil, well, why are you low on oil? What's happening? What's
Right.
causing that? You
Right.
know,
Exactly.
but I digress, but I love I love how you said, it was pretty powerful to me, that it's not always a mindset problem, it's physical,
Mhm. Mhm.
and that's a very different conversation than what most people are hearing right now.
Mhm.
So
So even, yeah, I'd like to connect that back to kind of the binge and delay the binge, and your
yes.
audience in particular, and this client that I was talking about with the sugar addiction,
Mhm.
right? Sugar addiction isn't necessarily yours. And what I mean by that is, we have co-evolved with bacteria in our bodies over millennia. So, and we all know about the gut microbiome that's being increasingly talked about in just common culture, which is a really good thing. And so we're paying more attention to our gut microbiome and taking probiotics and eating, yogurt and fermented foods that have good bacteria in them. And these bacteria serve purposes in our bodies. We sort of outsourced some of the functions of our bodies to these bacteria. They help us digest our food. They help us with immune function. They help keep kind of the bad guys out of our guts. But if that microbiome gets unbalanced, then other guys start to come in, the bad guys that we don't want to be there. And some of these bad guys actually feed on sugar. So in this coevolution of our bodies, so I sort of got ahead of myself a little bit. In this coevolution of the bacteria with our bodies, our brain has learned to listen to the bacteria in our gut. And so now you're hearing people talk about that gut-brain axis, that line of communication between your gut and your brain, and how that is regulating kind of all the other systems in your body, right? The endocrine system, the pituitary and the hypothalamus, and the fight or flight mode, and even sugar cravings. So when the bacteria in your gut are sending a message to the brain listens, because again, the good bacteria they've served these good purposes. But when that bacteria gets out of balance and these bad guys come in and they feed on sugar, then they tell your brain, we want more sugar. And so your brain gives you the craving or the signal, I need sugar. And so then you go indulge and, you fulfill that craving. And, I've had to educate my husband about this. When we got together, he's like, well, my body just wants sugar, so I'm just going to give it what it wants. And I'm like, no, yes, your brain is telling you that you want sugar, but, and to a certain extent, there's, yes, your brain feeds on, your brain runs on sugar, and you do need some sugars, but not in the concentrations and the quantities and the amounts that we have available to us in our modern society. So, this is all to say essentially that it's not necessarily a mindset issue. Fighting sugar cravings isn't necessarily a matter of having more discipline. If you can get a test to measure your gut microbiome and see the balance of bacteria there, and then you can know that, I need more of the good guys, less of the bad guys, or, I have an overgrowth of this yeast, or, there's some other causative factor that is making these sugar cravings so intense. And once you address that gut balance, then ostensibly, combined with a little bit of discipline, then those sugar cravings will lessen or go away altogether.
Yes, I love this conversation so much. I think the listeners are going to just have to go back and listen to it over and over. There's so much to unpack here. I want to slow down too for a second, because I think a lot of people are hearing conversations like this, even about the microbiome and all those things, gut health, but they don't know what to actually do. If someone's listening and they're thinking, wow, that could be me, something feels off like that, like they're describing, what are one or two things they can start paying attention to today, and then maybe something they can do about it?
Yeah. So just some lifestyle stuff to help kind of quell the sugar cravings. The first thing is that the flavor of sour sort of takes up the same receptor sites in the brain as sugar. So if you get something sour and eat that instead, lemon, lime, citrus, that can oftentimes kind of quell that sugar craving. Also, not letting your blood sugar get too low. So don't let yourself get really starving. And front load your day with protein and fat. So blood sugar and cortisol, the stress hormone, sort of have an inverse relationship. When your blood sugar gets too low, then it triggers your brain to produce cortisol, because cortisol raises your blood sugar. I sort of digress. It is a lot. So I'm trying to tie in the front load your day with protein and so a little bit of
can
fat.
I make a point there? Because
Yes.
for women, and you can validate this, but I read somewhere that men and women are completely different in this world.
They
You
are.
know, women need protein like the first
Mhm.
30 minutes you're awake.
So that helps bring down the cortisol.
Oh,
So
okay.
eating helps lower cortisol levels, which sets you up for more steady energy throughout the day, which also kind of helps regulate blood sugar throughout the day. So that was, kind of where I lost myself a moment ago.
Mhm.
So rather than being on that blood sugar roller coaster, because, I know intermittent fasting is really popular right now. But the latest research, so there's a woman named Stacy Sims who has specifically been researching women, right? Because a lot of the
Mhm.
nutrition advice we've been getting over decades and decades is all from studies that are done on men.
Yep.
But so Stacy Sims likes to say, women are not small men. Like, we function physiologically completely differently. And so we need a different approach to managing our weight and our hormones and our, exercise and stress levels. So she's a big proponent for that protein within the first 30 minutes to 1 hour of waking to help bring the cortisol down, which takes you out of the fasting window, right?
Mhm.
But that's okay, because ultimately, what she's found in her research is that intermittent fasting actually has obesogenic effects, meaning it causes the body to retain weight. Even though you think you're doing a good thing by quote unquote starving your body, like I'm eating fewer calories, right?
Mhm.
But then meanwhile, your cortisol's all over the place, your blood sugar's all over the place, and it's wreaking havoc on the internal systems of your body. So there's another woman, I forget her name, but she has a book called Fast Like a Girl, and so she has done research on intermittent fasting specifically with relation to women. And so if that's something that works for you or, anyone who's listening, not saying don't do it, but I'm just saying consider, and experiment. I mean,
Mhm.
what works for everyone else isn't going to work for you. And so here's one really educated woman, a professional in her field, who's saying intermittent fasting isn't for women. And then here's another woman, an expert, well educated in her field, who's saying intermittent fast, but do it in this way. And she takes menstrual cycles into consideration and hormonal fluctuations. And so, ultimately you are an experiment of one, and you have to find what works for you. And I
Right.
think, so we were kind of talking about if someone is listening and resonating with what they're saying, with what we're saying, and
Mhm.
are kind of curious about next steps. And just to kind of summarize, protein within the first hour of waking, 20 to 30 grams. It doesn't have to be food if you're not hungry. I particularly make myself a protein shake because I'm not
Okay.
hungry first thing in the morning. And I'm also attempting to sort of circumvent the sugar cravings by going for something sour first. And then if it's still coming up as an issue, go get it's called a GI map. Go get a gut test to really figure out the balance of bacteria in your gut. This is one of the tests that I run in my practice as a functional health practitioner that is covered by insurance. So you can go to your doctor, because it's also used by doctors to diagnose,
Mhm.
whereas most of the tests that the functional health practitioners, we don't diagnose. But the GI map is one thing where it is also a diagnostic tool. So go to your doctor and request a test, and you can get it paid for by insurance. And then you can really have an understanding of if there is an imbalance in your gut microbiome that might be driving these sugar cravings.
Oh my gosh, these are so amazing. And I didn't know that about the sour.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yes, I'm so
Yeah.
gonna try it because I love sugar, and
Yeah.
it takes everything in me to not eat it because it so doesn't
Mhm.
serve me. I feel
Yeah.
horrible for days if I eat it.
Yeah.
So, but the microbiome, the gut check, that's huge because a lot of people think that it's not covered by insurance and that it's very expensive.
Mhm.
But man, that would take all the guesswork out of everything.
Exactly. Exactly. We like to say test, don't guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're in denial, I think. And I have done this, and you don't want to look at it. It's almost like,
Mhm.
I don't wanna go get that gut test because I don't wanna see what it's gonna tell me because I don't wanna have to do what I need to do in order to fix it. They're in
Mhm.
denial or I mean, so what are some early signals that people ignore the most, but are very critical? I mean, people don't realize it's like with women with heart attacks, right? They always women brush it off because they think it's something else. But in
Hmm.
reality, it's a heart attack coming up.
Yeah. Bloating after meals is a good one, that there
Okay.
might be something out of balance with your gut. Any sort of digestive issues, whether, constipation or diarrhea, alternating constipation or diarrhea, those are signs that something is out of balance in your gut. Eczema can be, skin issues can certainly be an indicator, as well as just those intense sugar cravings that we're talking about. So again, and signs just show up differently for everyone. So just any little thing that you think, oh, well, that seems weird, or that's new, or that didn't used to be there. Um, they're like, to go back to the car analogy that you mentioned earlier, those are like
Yeah.
little warning lights on the dashboard of
Yeah.
the vehicle that is your body. And if you don't pay attention to them, your body is going to break down at some point. So pay attention while they're just kind of blinking at you before they start, like before alarm bells start going off and they sort of take you out. I mean, we all know people who, like you said, with women and heart attacks, who have ignored the warning signs that their body is trying to give them,
Hmm.
until they can no longer ignore, because they have been completely laid flat and they have to take time off work, and they have to, and then they incur giant medical bills for time spent in the hospital, or, whatever it may be. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, as they
Oh,
say. So,
exactly.
be proactive. We all know that the healthcare system in this country is broken. They
Hmm.
have no interest in actually improving our health outcomes, or, the care that we get, even that's covered by insurance, is just, it'll get you back to your baseline, but it
Yeah.
won't improve your health. That's up to us. And so
Yes.
I really like to encourage people to be proactive, because it'll save you thousands and thousands of dollars down the line, hundreds of thousands. If not, people go bankrupt from medical bills that all could have been
Mhm.
avoided if we were just a little more proactive in our own health and well-being.
Exactly. And that's what I meant earlier about tools. I love tools.
Mhm.
Whatever tool I can use that's going to aid me and assist me in learning ultimately what I need to do to stay healthy.
Mm.
But a lot of times people rely on the tool completely, like, I don't know,
Mhm.
GLP-1s or whatever it
Right.
is. But those help people, but it's not,
Mhm.
I don't think that it should be forever. I think that it
Right.
should just be utilized so that you can figure out what's really going on,
Right. Right.
you know?
Exactly. Yeah. I
But
appreciate you saying that too, because that's where, like, the labs give us information where we can target our supplementation to support that system in the body to return it to 100% function, but they're never meant to be for the rest of your life in the same way that,
Mhm.
like, pharmaceuticals are, right?
Right.
So the supplements that we use as a result of the data, A, we know that your body actually needs them. It's not guesswork. B, they're temporary until your body regains the capacity to maintain that 100% function on its own. And C, it's healing that system of the body. It's actually improving your health versus the Western approach of just kind of, being a crutch for a while. So, and then the lifestyle stuff is what helps you maintain, like we talked about. It's what helps you maintain the benefits that you get from doing the labs and returning your body to 100%.
Right, because that's the trick, right? I
Mhm.
don't know if you know statistics with bariatrics, I know them by heart, but a big percentage of them regain all
Regain
their
the weight.
weight.
Yeah.
They chopped up their insides,
Yeah.
in an effort to be healthier, but then,
That's right.
the surgeon literally said to me, "Pam, you have 1 year to get the bulk of the weight off, and then the body figures it out, and then
Mhm.
regain can become an issue."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I wasn't told how to do that.
Right.
What are you talking about? Tell me.
Yes, exactly. And the stomach is stretchy, right? So, like, you
Mhm.
can you can cut half of it out and just have a smaller stomach and eat less, but if you keep overeating, then it's
Yeah.
just going to expand and it's going to expand,
Yes,
and
yes, and
that's where that weight gain comes back.
exactly, and so I'm curious about all this from a momentum standpoint,
Oh,
because once
yeah.
someone is in that pattern of pushing through anyway, even though they see the signs,
Uh-huh.
it just keeps going. So what do you
Uh-huh.
see happen over time when someone keeps overriding those signals versus when they start catching it earlier, like being reactive,
Well,
proactive?
yeah, I mean, they're certainly headed towards something more serious, right?
Yeah.
Like that car is going to break down if you ignore those warning lights. Um, but I like to use the analogy. I love that you said momentum because I have another analogy of a freight train. And so you have this freight train that's like heading in a certain direction, either towards health or towards dis-ease, or disease, as we say. And it has a certain momentum, and it takes a while you can't just like stop it overnight and send it back in the other direction, right? It takes
Yeah.
a while with concentrated effort to get the train to slow down, much less come to a stop, much less start going in another direction. So I work with people for a period of 6 months, during which we achieve a lot of that, right? We slow that freight train down from going further towards disease. When we get it going back towards a state of health. And because we change the momentum and of the body, then my clients continue to see improvements well after we finish working together. 6 months, a year later, they're still noticing like,
It sticks.
oh, this thing isn't happening anymore. My mom was my first client when I started doing this work. She's my biggest fan. Besides my husband.
Yeah.
But she was my first client, and she was having a conversation. She's in her 70s. She was having a conversation with a friend last week, and they were, as an older generation, kind of comparing this ache and pain and that thing and this thing that's going on. And my mom was like, well, I used to have this, but I don't have it anymore. And I used to have this, but that went away. And I used to have, pain in my feet and my hips, and now that's gone. And and this lady was like, what do you mean gone? How did you do that? And it's just through this kind of work, right? Getting the data, repairing the body, and making the fundamental lifestyle changes that will maintain that progress.
Well, and, motivation or inspiration, let's say, because we discussed motivation coming after the action. So to be inspired to do these things that we must do in order to make a difference, I think I read it in one of your posts where you said the body is the system running everything in your business. For me, as an entrepreneur, that matters.
Yes.
Because I want my business to be successful.
Exactly.
And if my body is the system that's running everything in it, I'm going to pay a little more attention.
That's right.
So what actually changes when someone is physically supported versus when they're running on caffeine, willpower, and pushing through?
Everything becomes easier.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like you're pushing through. You wake up with that motivation and excitement to jump into your work for the day, because ostensibly you started your business because you're passionate about what it is that you're doing, right? But sometimes that passion gets clouded by a sense of malaise in the body. So when you handle that, you deal with that, then all of a sudden that passion and excitement returns, and you're excited to take on your day instead of feeling like you're dragging through your day and like, oh, I have a million things to do. It's like, here are all these things that I get to do to have this impact on the world that I really dream about, and help try to create the world that I want to create.
Protect that dream,
Yeah.
and stay sharp.
That's right. So everything gets easier. Your mood lifts. Your business grows faster. Decisions are made faster. You don't lose as much time to brain fog and just trying to think about what you want to say. Your business, the impact that you want to make on the world is larger because your business is growing. Your bottom line is growing. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it does seem like everything seems twice as difficult as it is. It's not really.
Right.
It's just if your brain's not on top of things, it's going to make everything seem really, really bad. And those things are going to happen in business, but we can deal with it much better if we are strong and healthy. This is part of our Becoming series, and I always come back to this question because it's not about becoming someone different. It's about coming back to yourself, who you really are. So when you look at that version of you, say under the desk, pushing through, who were you then, and who have you become because of that moment?
Wow, that's a good question. At that point, like I said, I definitely had something to prove. And I thought that working harder and longer was going to get me a feeling of worth, a feeling of self-worth, like I had succeeded and I deserved it. And this all kind of ties into my addiction to cannabis, and what I was avoiding was and the childhood wounds were all about, betrayal and not being worthy of love. And so I thought I had to earn love and earn success rather than just being worthy just by virtue of being alive. Right? So that's where I am now, is like, I am successful. The number on the piece of paper at on my balance sheet for my business has nothing to do with success. And I am worthy of love, regardless of whether I'm successful or, what I've achieved or accomplished in this world, or, external recognition. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. So it's almost like the you version now, if you could talk to that person before, you would say, you are loved just the way you are.
Yeah.
We're literally using all these things we've learned as fuel. The pain can be turned into purpose.
That's right.
Because I know my intent is just to help anyone that's willing to listen avoid my mistakes and how to maintain and sustain things.
That's right.
Thank you for that. That's beautiful. So before we wrap up, where can people connect with you and learn more about your wonderful work?
Yeah, thank you. LinkedIn is my primary platform where I spend most of my time. So Jessica Van Antoine, and my business name is Phoenix Functional Health. Of course, we have a website if you want to check that out. It's just phoenixfunctionalhealth.com. And was on Instagram, but not so much there anymore. So whatever you find over there will be a bit older.
I can't do all the platforms. That's all I would
can't
do.
I can't do it.
Jessica, this was such a powerful conversation. I mean, by far the closest thing I can send anyone to help them understand more about Delay the Binge. What stands out most is that it's not that the people aren't trying hard enough, right? Don't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
It's that they're missing the signal, and the moment where something feels off, and that moment, that's where everything can start to change.
That's right.
So thank you for sharing this so openly today.
My pleasure.
If this conversation resonated with you, pay attention to your next moment, not the big change, just the next one. Pause, choose, build momentum, and finish stronger, one moment at a time. I'll see you in the next episode.